take a couple extra minutes since we now have what we hope is a much more secure platform in Zoom. Folks needing to sign on with these unique generated passcodes. So first of all, congratulations to the 27 of you that made it on. Your other colleagues are starting to populate as we see. We're also waiting for our 2 special guests who will be here as well. David Markey will start first, and then Mary. So we'll just hold on another minute. But everyone, again, please introduce yourselves in the chat, and we'll start in a couple. Oh, sorry, David Markey is here. Okay, we will start in just a minute. Hi, David. So good morning, everyone. I want to be respectful of everyone's time and for us to get started, even though I can see the number of participant tally keeps going up. Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. I hope you all had a good, restful weekend during such crazy times. I know for me, I started working on a sculpture in the fabrication phase of a piece that I've been working on and producing for some time. And it was frustrating, but awesome. It felt so good to be doing some work, some creative work. I'm sure you guys can see in the background, I've got my shits fucked up. That will be the only obscenity in today's meeting, we hope. That's actually a piece by a local DC artist, Joseph Orzal, that came from the Occupy movement. Remember back in the day when that was the most important thing on our minds? Ah, big sigh. Okay, so shit's fucked up indeed. But that was the cry of Occupy. And that piece actually has a very interesting history, and we'll get into that another day. So as we know, Mondays are dedicated to hearing from 2 of our most important stakeholders, Mr. David Markey from the Commission and Mary Lambert from DCPS Arts. David has a hard stop at 11, so I want to make sure that David's able to share all the information, and you can ask as many questions for the time that we have David on for today. So David, if you'd like to just give us all an update on how things are going for you.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Oh, super. Okay. So, well, here's a quick update. I can stay till 11:30. So, or 12. So my 11:30 meeting moved to a different time. So,
okay.
You know, so yes, things are changing by the minute. We don't have a lot of updates here. There's, you know, we're just pushing forward. I think I may have mentioned last week or the week before that we have FY21 general operating support panels happening. We had 3 that took place last week and 3 that are taking place this week. So, you know, there's an element of us trying to move forward, you know, with business as usual, understanding that business as usual is not usual, it's far from usual. And also looking at the grant programs for next year to see how we might be able to make adjustments to accommodate what is happening in the world and the needs of our grantee organizations and individuals. Other than that, I don't have very many updates, I'm afraid.
Well, thank you, David. That's actually, it's just, first of all, so nice to hear your voice and appreciate you dedicating this time every Monday with us, because just knowing, even if we don't know anything new, is very important. And also just having nice, friendly reminders for those of us that are either in the process of completing our reports, that there are important commission business that is still happening to our benefit. So again, deadline reminder for those of you that work on the reports or pass along to your development team if you haven't already done so already. That would be me. We're working on ours. April 17th is the deadline for the interim reports. The DC Collaborative is doing the best we can to get as much data for our friends that work with us on the Dahi field trip grant. As I shared last week, we typically provide this report at the end of the school year, but knowing that in many ways it is the end of the field trip school year, but also for the sake of the interim report, we're trying to get as much information, as much survey response, which will most likely be just teacher-based at this point for most trips, to those of you that are working with us on assessment. That said, we have been in close communication with Dr. Anthony Satari, who is our assessment and data consultant. We have regular conversations. The entire DC Collaborative team has been working on assessment calls and reminders to teachers just to collect as much of that information. We've prioritized the Dahi grantees with that assessment work right now, and we're doing our best to try and get some information to you all, and then also to David. Our goal is this week, and we'll continue to work on this, but we just want to get as much info as we can this week. Also to that end, we've been asking everyone who has photos from field trips and photos that you know that we can print or produce, make public, to please share with us. And then also we will be sharing that with the commission. And that's something that I know Trey has been collecting. So we do have a few. So from those of you that have been able to provide that, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to share with David? If you're trying to talk, go ahead and unmute yourself. No, I don't see anything in the chat room, but I do know that we do have a lot of folks on and continuing to join us for today's call. I know that Commissioner of the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities, Kay Kendall, is here with us as well. And we appreciate Kay being part of this conversation. And just for those of you, the Field Trip Initiative Grant, which David has been part of from the very beginning and inception, so has Kay. And that conversation started first with our board president, Linda Harper, and Kay Kendall around the idea of creating a field trip initiative grant that the commission would work on. And we've been so appreciative of that. And we know that this is an unusual field trip year. It's an unusual year for a lot of reasons for learning, but really appreciate that the commission is still committed to this, and knowing that we all have to pivot in our work. And David has been so supportive for many of you, raise your hands, and trying to figure out how we do pivot so that we can still figure out the best ways to get our amazing arts and humanities learning opportunities out to students that maybe can't have that direct experiential opportunity. So this is a unique year for all of us, for sure. And I do look forward to what our pivots do look like. Does anyone want to share anything about field trips? No? Okay, I think folks are just really hungry for more information too, which is a good thing. One of the things before we get to Mary that I want you all to know that we're thinking about at the collaborative, as you know, we immediately pivoted to work on COVID-19 response resources, including this resource, this 11 a.m. Zoom chat that we do every day. And the fact that we're also curating these opportunities now to benefit all of our stakeholders, for all of us to have conversations with key contacts in our community like dedicating Mondays to the Commission and DCPS, for example. These are important community conversations. Our conversation with Project Create and Sitar last Thursday was so important. Oh, it was such a rich conversation. We're actually going to bring those teams back in 3 weeks to see how they're progressing so we can really do a case study as a community of practice. And this is a great example of what the collaborative is looking to do. We're also in our pivot realizing that this is just the beginning. And while we appreciate how swiftly as a community we came together and created, and thanks to Trey for developing our distance learning database, which we still are taking information to populate, we want to make sure that this is impactful work, as David, as we discussed with David last week. And while it's hard for us to measure that at the moment, we know that this is the next iteration of the work that we need to do as a community. And we also have to think a lot about how each of us as stakeholders are going to be part of that process moving forward. So know that at the collaborative, we are thinking about this. We are thinking about equity. We know that the digital divide is so apparent right now, and we appreciate all the stakeholders that are working hard to help to level that, but that will continue to endure. We also know that when we are able to be fully operational again, we're going to have to look at a hybrid of direct and indirect learning experiences. And we also know as the collaborative that we are the ones that aggregate those opportunities, try to find the best pathways for equity and access. We are not the producers of that content. You are. And as such, we are looking for our next iteration to help support and direct more curated learning experiences online and on the ground and in the institutions. So I've put out a call to media platform developers, and we're starting to look at how we can take all of the work that we do and create some curated experiences. Maybe look at flights of learning opportunities, similar to what the capacity building committee that David Markey and, and Mary Lambert have led through our Any Given Child DC work. We talked about this at our last, I think, capacity building conversation at the Commission, about the idea of maybe there are 3 different performing arts organizations that offer these learning opportunities that are connected. So I'm calling them a flight of opportunity. Ways that we can curate these learning experiences, making sure that they are rich with curricular connection, that are meeting the needs of DCPS and the charters, also showcasing and highlighting the work that we do in our respective institutions, but also how our learning opportunities intersect and connect with each other. So just know that these are some of the ideas that we're popcorning and starting to reach out to new stakeholders that the collaborative has never worked with before to help support our entire community, because we know that the work that we're doing right now is so important. We've heard such great feedback from all of you about these Zoom chats, for example, and thank you. And we're so proud that we're able to offer this, and also that database. But we know that we have to, together as a community, be thinking about what it looks like next. So just wanted to share a little bit with you about what the collaborative's been thinking about this past week. Knowing this is such a fluid process, want to open up the mic, hand the mic over to Ms. Mary Lambert. Mary, if you'd like to share how things are going at DCPS and what you need from us.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you again to the collaborative for being such a wonderful community builder and supporter of the arts and arts partnerships and arts education. We are so, so grateful for all that you're doing. So we did have great news this morning that the Eli digital devices, so the laptops are going to all grade levels. Last week it was just high school that they were rolling them out. This week it's to all grade levels. So any student who needs a laptop, they will have access along with either hotspots or Wi-Fi support, thanks to the mayor's initiative for creating additional funds. I also just had a really wonderful call, thanks to Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation. They got directors of arts and music programs from all over the country together on a call, and why I was a little late to this one. But it was a great chance to hear what was happening in all the big cities, New York, Boston, San Francisco, Nashville. And we also had the Country Music Association educational director on the call as well to talk about what they're doing to support. And for the most part, everyone's sort of on the same page, where either they had a week or two of online training for teachers and now they're just now getting into curriculum, or they were more like Washington, D.C., where we launched into the curriculum and we're getting the teachers up to speed afterwards. And everyone's looking at virtual concerts, how we can do family engagement. I think New York was doing a really interesting idea where the governor decided that they wouldn't have spring break this week. And so instead, they asked the schools to come up with family engagement opportunities to help make sure that the students were staying at home instead of going out. And so they're doing a lot of interesting things like family bands and, you know, put it out there as a challenge, creating artwork, doing kind of memory boxes and things like that, doing podcasts of family interviews similar to StoryCorps on NPR. So we thought that was a really interesting idea that maybe something we could look into as well. We're launching into writing the last 6 weeks of the year at this point. So we have written the first 5 weeks, and we're in week 3 right now. So our team is writing those starting this week for weeks 6 through 12. And nothing has been said that we're going to be out of school for the end of the year, but it's most likely, right? And this week also launched the videos for all of the grade levels. We're really proud of what our teachers and partners have created for all of the grade levels. So please check those out. It's on DCTV. And then you can also look it up on the DCPS YouTube channel. And sorry, I'm walking out on a family walk while I'm on this call, so I'm a little out of breath, that's why. We are looking for more teaching artists to support those videos. One thing that has been a little difficult is, as many of you know, the funding process through DCPS can be a little tricky because we're linked to the government, so we can't just pay someone $500 for work or, you know, something relative like that. So we have to go through a partner to be able to pay people. And thankfully, Washington Performing Arts is still up and running, and they have been incredibly supportive, and we're having weekly calls with them to really just look at what is the best way we can support our teaching artists to get really wonderful work out to our family and our communities, engaging people. So, and even if anyone is not currently a teaching artist with them, they are willing to take on new teaching artists. So we're really happy and proud of that, especially after the Kennedy Center was no longer able to provide. And I think that is about it for our updates. I can't see chats, so if anyone can read chats for me, would be much appreciated, by the way.
Sure. I'm just looking through. Does anyone, while I scroll the chat, it's a lot of good positive stuff like, yay, thank you, Washington Performing Arts. Everything sounds creative and interesting. And thanks to WPA, no direct questions at this point. I do know, before I segue over, oh, there's something from Joanne. Joanne, do you want to share?
Yes, I just learned how to unmute. My question is, if our organizations are putting out a lot of content to our own listservs and individual partners, some of whom are DCPS schools, what is the best way to get, should we send that to you as well, Mary? Is there a different process you'd like if you want to be able to share some of our resources?
Thanks, Joanne. So sending it directly to me is definitely a bonus for me. However, I look at whatever is posted on the DC Collaborative site as well.
Okay.
So if you're uploading to the database, I'll see it. I only check that once a week, just simply for workload. But if you send me an email, I might see it ever so slightly quicker.
Yeah. So just keep in mind, the collaborative portal was created in direct consultation with Mary and her team. Its reach goes beyond DCPS. It goes to charters as well, but it is truly a tool that we've worked on in partnership. So everyone know that we get everything up immediately when you forward it to us. And that is the best place to park all of the information for now.
Mary, it's Kent. I just had a couple questions.
Great, go ahead.
Yeah, on the laptops, do you know what the timeline is for actually getting them to students? How they're doing that? Is it going middle and then elementary schools? And two, internet access. Are they tapping into the equity fund, or are they working with some companies like Verizon and others to accelerate getting hotspots around for kids who don't have internet access?
So as far as the laptops, it is being distributed to all grade levels at this point. So every school will have their bank of laptops that would have gone to Eli. So the grades 3, 6, and 9 initial initiative. Those are going to go out to any students who need them. And then there's also an additional set of funds that were created to buy additional laptops. And then there's the e-readers for the little guys for elementary that are extra as well in there. So everybody should have that open to them this week, was the messaging that we received this morning. I know last week it was, come by Friday and pick it up kind of mentality. As far as the hotspots, I am not sure on that part. I'll have to look into that for you, Kent, because that was through the mayor's office. That wasn't through DCPS directly. But I can find that out and send it to you. Okay.
And just so everyone knows, that there's going to be an education town hall, I think, tonight with Mayor Bowser at 5 o'clock. And if people don't have that link yet, it's like an Eventbrite link. You can send it around. You just have to register, and then you can go in and ask questions,
Yeah.
I think.
I think that's important. We'll make sure that if one of the collaborative team can grab that and just put it in the chat for those that can see it. We'll also post it on social media. That's an important town hall. Remember, we need to talk about arts and humanities for every student and how important our work is in supporting student learning and families and their caretakers. So there was a question from Uncle Devin, just for clarification. If there are teaching artists that are interested in working with DCPS, should they contact Washington Performing Arts directly, or should they contact DCPS Arts team first, Mary?
It's probably best to contact us with a list of what form of arts you can do. What are you comfortable making videos about, and what age level? So elementary videos are going to be very different than the high school ones. And then we can pair you up with WPA for payment and that sort of thing. Thankfully, they were very willing to open it up to new teaching artists. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And thanks, Michelle and team over at WPA. You guys or Washington Performing Arts, you're awesome. So just again, what Mary said, check in with the DCPS Arts team first. If you are going to move forward in working with them, you would then connect with Washington Performing Arts because they'll be brokering getting you all paid, which is very important.
Lissa?
Yes.
Question, I saw a note about this from Lacey in the chat about humanities organizations and partnering with other divisions besides the arts division. I don't know if that's something that we have the capacity to do, but Mary, I'm just wondering if you can shed any light on that.
Sure, definitely. As far as creating videos, I know that ELA and math have been using a lot of the prescribed videos. So how much support they are wanting in that. I mean, they may be interested moving forward if the prescribed ones are not as exciting and engaging as originally thought. So there is the possibility there, but when it comes to curriculum creation, like any ideas or supports, I'm sure they would definitely be interested in wanting fresh ideas for that. So if you want, you're welcome to send me an email and I can forward it on. If you know specifically what grade level, I can give you a name, or you can also look it up on the DCPS website, the director's name.
We can make it up with Scott directly.
Also, Sarah, and for our humanities-based friends too, the collaborative, as you guys know, has historically done, usually hosted by either Shakespeare Theater Company or other members, in-person curricular connection conversations that have gone beyond the arts team, but have also included Scott Abbott and social studies, ELA. Tracey, do you want to share a little bit about what we're going to start working on? Because this will may answer your question as well, Sarah, especially for humanities-based programming.
Sure. So we normally do connecting to curriculum workshops, and Trey is taking the lead at designing those workshops and making them a little bit more interactive than they have in the past. So I'm really excited for that. We did ask last Friday, Lissa and I are on the phone with other folks from DCPS Central Office, as well as the Public Charter School Board, and Smithsonian contacts as well. We asked when the best time to contact the curricular content leads would be, because I think you guys are pretty swamped right now. So we'll be contacting them in a couple of weeks, and Trey will be designing a new workshop template. Trey, would you like to share a little bit more, or do you have anything to add to that?
Just that, yeah, kind of what we're envisioning is that the workshop takes on a more interactive component to it, and less of a lecture style. I think we've received some feedback from our members who've attended the workshop in the past saying that it wasn't as interactive as they'd like it to be. And so one thing that we're exploring during this time is how do we make sure that we are embedding activities and conversations and small group discussions into those workshops that allow it to be more interactive, that allow more collaboration between us as a staff, our members, as well as the people in the curriculum office. And so that's a little bit what I'm working on, just to make sure that our members are taking the most away from these workshops and are able to directly apply the content areas and the curriculum and learning standards from the DCPS office to their programming at their respective organizations.
Thanks for sharing that, Trey. Also, on our conversation with the DCPS central team as well, that also included community engagement folks and the charters on Friday. We learned a bit more about the DCTV programming, and we had a pretty robust conversation about how some of that programming content could actually directly connect parents and caretakers to all of our cultural institutions, education, learning opportunities using the DC Collaborative portal as that first approach. So I know that Katie was going to take that back to the DCPS arts team to take back to as well as Thomason from community engagement to talk about how the arts and humanities education private sector can help support and promote its resources through DCTV as well. And I know that we do have a message out to Office Film, Cable TV, Movie Entertainment too. But Mary, do you want to share a little bit about DCTV? Because I know some folks have had questions about the programming.
Sure. So each day is going to be a different grade band. And so starting on Mondays with the little guys through Friday being high school. And what we're creating runs anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes is the absolute max they're allowing us to create per unit. And so it's meant to be that the videos are supporting the unit that DCPS created for that week. So whether it is, like for instance, for our middle school, for visual arts, we had Karen Brown, one of our local teaching artists, create a video on how to do bookbinding, along with 2 of our teachers supported with then doing sort of a virtual actual teaching lesson. Then we mashed it all together into one beautiful video that will come out this week. And then we had some, yeah, I know, right? Isn't that great? And then we had some teachers that created just some really brilliant videos that were so wonderful. We're expecting them to become viral stars any day because they are so good. So just even for fun, check them out, because especially on the music side, I think they're very entertaining. And that's really it. I would say that as far as creation, so like we created since Wednesday, we've created, I think, we have a total of 16 videos that were due today at noon, and they will start airing tomorrow. So that's the kind of quick timeline we're working on. And when we're even developing our curriculum, like when I say that we're working on the last 6 weeks of the school year right now, I am creating all the learning plans, what would be student facing, by this Friday for all of those weeks. And then next week we're doing the teacher facing and the family facing and the digital resources. So our timelines are very, very quick, which makes it, I know, especially hard for people who maybe are not as tech or digital friendly. because of that turnaround. There's not really a learning padding in there.
Yeah. That is a question that has come up on some of our Zoom chats, especially when we talk about equity. First of all, great news about students, all students getting the equipment they need. Now let's talk about broadband, right? That's another thing. But what if that's not enough? And the question about distribution of printed or physical material, can that somehow get into the system? It used to be we could go through central office and get materials, physical material distributed. And we talked a lot over the past week, 2 weeks certainly, about how are the feeding centers doing? Is that the right resource place for it? Is there any new news about that, Mary?
Nothing new. I think that we're wanting to keep the routine as much as possible so that there is not confusion, where the paper packets are going to stay being launched at the schools, and then the feeding locations are basically the same. I think there's a couple of community centers added in there, but for the most part they're at the schools as well. And that's been going well. As far as like student engagement from online and paper, we're finding the younger grades are definitely having a higher percentage of student engagement, where elementary is in the 80 and 90% for most classes, middle school's relatively same. High school is where we're finding that there's the real lack of student engagement, mostly because they know that grades are not being counted on this.
That makes sense, yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that update, because I know some folks were hoping that if there was a way for them to get physical material out, that they could do that too. But the news of the computers and hopefully the broadband to follow, getting to each student is very promising. Anyone else have some questions or ideas to share? Another thing that was very exciting that came out of one of our Zoom chats last week comes from a DC teaching artist and on-air radio personality, Uncle Devin, who I see is on the call today. Hello. Uncle Devin, do you want to share with everyone what's going on at WPFW and what we were talking about with you and Terry?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Yes, a couple of weeks ago, actually, before the shutdown, I had already spoke with the program director, and we agreed that I will lead really one of the first children's music programming that they've had at PFW at least in the last 30 years. But every Wednesday starting April 15th from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. I will be doing the what we call Uncle Devin's We Nation Radio. And the whole purpose of it is to, especially given that a lot of children may not have had access to the internet, at least now on the radio, we will have content, both music, interviews, storytelling, and the information so that the community can know what we're doing for the music program. So right now, we're scheduled for April 15th. There's a possibility that they may try to push it up to sometime this week just to meet the demand. But right now, we're scheduled for April 15th. And again, this was also before the shutdown. So I know we're still working certain things out. I'm handling it more so as a syndication. So I already have the first 2 weeks already done, or in the third week I'm working on now, and but it's a great opportunity to let people know what we do, and I'm really featuring a lot of artists. If there's something if you're a storyteller or artist in any way you want to participate, you can always send me a message. I'll leave my contact information here, but I'm really excited about it. I'm coming over from Radio 1's WOL to WPFW, and looking forward to it.
Thanks for sharing that, Devin. I think that more ways that we can get our arts education programming and content out to students, their families, and caretakers, the better. And low power FM, local community radio is absolutely the place to do that. And appreciate all that you'll do to help promote the programs that we all are creating and have created for students. So know that you have access to anyone on this Zoom chat to interview. And I know that we talked about Terry as well. People are raising their hands. Yeah, raise your hands like, okay, Devin, get me on. But this is important for us to think about radio in addition to TV. So, and maybe PFW will just love this programming so much they'll expand it, and maybe
That's
put
the
it
goal.
on during family time hours.
That's the
Which
goal.
would be great. Yeah, that's fantastic. I do see that there is a question that came up, and David responded to, but maybe if we want to open it up to the floor, about preliminary thoughts around measuring impact. I know that this is very important for us to think about. We did everything to start in our pivot, which I'm so proud of us as a community for pivoting so quickly, to make sure that we were supportive of DCPS and educators and getting our materials up and out there. But now let's talk about how we can measure impact. And we know that that's going to take more time. So Sarah and David, or anyone, would you like to talk a little bit more about some thoughts around impact? Because we know everything's been so fluid.
I guess my question was sort of a preface to impact. I was curious as to, Mary mentioned that participation in these online experiences is much more robust with the younger students, and then as they move through the grades, there's less participation. I guess I wasn't completely sure as how are we tracking, or how's DCPS tracking participation? Is it student logons? Do they have special logons, or is it the teacher just asking who's out there? And I'm curious to know. And I think that's a preface to then the impact questions. So.
Yeah.
Sure. So that it's not as centralized as our previous attendance accounting that we had previously. There are some schools that are doing attendance just like they used to, where kids have to sign in, they have to stay the whole day and go that way. But those are for the schools that are really 100% online. So doing fully the asynchronous, or I'm sorry, the synchronous learning. Others are looking at log on time. So especially in high school, that's how I'm knowing a lot of those numbers, is that the teachers who are using specifically Canvas are able to see when the students log on, how long they stayed on, and how much they participated. So that's really valuable information. And then for the teachers using Microsoft Teams, they can get similar information as well, just not quite as detailed. And so a lot of it is through the teacher town halls that I'm learning, talking to principals, talking to teachers. So for me, this information is coming mostly anecdotally. I can't see it in one central place, but for collecting data for the capacity or for AGC alone, we would probably have to work with each of the principals to get that information.
Great, thanks.
That makes sense.
One thought that I had was in addition to posting our resource on your database, I sent it out to our listserv of about 300 educators. And so I thought I could send a follow-up email asking them if they looked at it, if it was of interest to them, if they used it, before going on to do more offerings and maybe accruing more costs. So that was just one way I thought I could determine if there's any response to the offering that we put on your resource database as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing, David and Sarah. I think that this, and Mary for your response too, I think the impact conversation is one we will continue to navigate and stay on top of as best we can. And it's something that we certainly look at the collaborative, and will become increasingly more important as we go through more iterations of what supplementary and supportive roles we are all providing in student learning in this new way and age. Some of the other things that we wanted to cover today, I feel in many ways, I'm feeling sort of like a TV anchor now, the way that we were talking about TV, DCTV and radio, but it's basically that means communication. How we're communicating, how we're getting our ideas out there is so important. So, and will continue to be so. And that's why, as I shared earlier in the Zoom chat today, what we're thinking about the needs of the community are. We, as you know, did an immediate teacher needs survey. We did a needs survey for you all as members, and we also did a financial needs one question pulse survey, which we did get a lot of responses that we've already forwarded over to our friends at KFRITS. We'll be sharing it with the commission and other funders just for information purposes. But I think it's important for us to have as many threads and fluid conversations as possible. That's why we're doing these Zoom chats too. But back to this idea of communication and feeling a little bit like media, DCTV. I know there are a lot of questions that are coming up, but I did want Trey to be able to share a bit more on what's going on, as well as Tracey with our new listserv idea. So somewhat jokingly, I have a little message from Tracey that says, oh, okay, let's make sure Trey gives a traffic update. So I feel like back to the TV news radio anchor, like, let's have that traffic update, Trey. So Trey, if you want to just provide an update to everyone on how we're doing with the database.
Yeah, so the database, we have, we've exceeded 100 submissions, which is really great from all of our members. And so just a thank you to everyone who sent in their resources, for everyone who's developed resources for this database and has made them available to students. Tomorrow morning, Clarissa and I, Clarissa is our school programs manager, we are having a webinar with the DC Public School Charter Board, and they're having, similar to our daily Zoom chats, daily conversations with teachers, parents, and all sorts of people in their community about what they can do for arts education. And tomorrow they're having a specific conversation about the arts for charter school students. And so myself and Clarissa will be walking through the database for that community, and we hope to have a lot of your resources used and populated by those students as well. And so we're really excited about that. They typically have over 100 people participate in their daily webinars. And so we're excited to see what comes of that. We are continuously accepting submissions though. And so as you create new things, as you network with your peers at other organizations who may have really great resources as well, we ask that you share the link to our database to them, that you share our content submission form to them so that they can begin to submit their materials as well. And so we are, for the most part, still accepting work from DC specific cultural organizations, but we do share resources from people outside of DC as well, and have started to do that, as well as professional development resources, articles on how to best make the transition to digital for whether that's a parent or a student or a teacher or arts practitioner. If you are a teaching artist and you have specific curriculum or materials that you use directly with students, we encourage you to submit those as well. So even if you are not necessarily tied or attached to a specific organization, but you yourself are an artist who have resources that students could use just based off of your own knowledge and the work that you do, we invite you to submit that to us as well. And if you have any questions, let me see if I can put my email in the chat. So 1 second. I'll put my email in the chat. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, or if you are struggling to create content for digital learning, feel free to reach out to me as well, and we can strategize and brainstorm to that together. I mean, we at the Collaborative, we want to be of service to you during this time and to make sure that we are working together to make this more effective and user-friendly for all students and teachers.
Thanks, Trey. I'll just briefly go over some updates we've made to our COVID-19 resource page on the DC Collaborative website. So Kelsey, who has been on every day taking notes, will be doing our digest, our weekly digest for the Zoom chat. I can post, she tried to do 3 weeks at once with this latest edition, so I will post that in the chat. And they will be listed on our website under the recording and notes archive. We're a little bit behind with getting the notes up, but this 3-week summary should help us. And then moving forward, we'll have these digests go out every week to the people who sign up for the daily Zoom chat digest listserv. And then if we're still thinking of the best way to communicate to you during this time, because we are, we receive a ton of resources in that we're trying to share with you. So these digests will probably also be featured in our newsletters, so you can see them regularly. We have a daily Zoom chat schedule also on our website, so I can tell you what's coming up. So tomorrow we'll be talking a little bit about self-care. Tuesdays are an open forum. The DC Collaborative staff internally has been talking about self-care a lot during this time. And tomorrow we'll be focusing on like work-life balance, especially for parents during the quarantine. And additionally, like how to reach out to other district parents, because their voice is really important to the equity discussion, and just if like how they're using the resource as well. So we want to make sure to kind of brainstorm about that. Wednesdays again are for teaching artists and practitioners. Thursdays are community of practice ones. This Thursday, the 9th, we'll hear from Fareed of Pulitzer Center. He'll share their online lesson builder that Pulitzer had, before COVID-19. And then he'll also share how they pivoted the Everyday DC project during quarantine and social distancing. So Lindsay Vance may join us. She has not confirmed yet, but he works with Lindsay of DCPS Arts on this project every year. And it started as a DC Collaborative field trip opportunity a couple of years ago, which is great. Fridays are all about equity and access. This is led by Clarissa Hartsfield. She's our main point of contact on the Equity and Access Committee for any given child. I believe she said this week that she is going to work to get special education teachers on the chat to talk about the type of resources they need. And then again, you can sign up for listservs. Let me put the link in the chat. So we're, again, trying to find ways to get you the most relevant information rather than just blanket, like doing blanket emails for everyone. So the listservs that we have are for community partnerships, teaching artists and practitioners, the community of practice program development ones, daily meeting reminders. I think we'll stop sending daily reminders out to everybody before the meeting. So, but if you are the type of person that wants daily reminders, please sign up for that listserv, and I'll reach out to you every day. And then we have the DC Collaborative Zoom Chat Digest listserv. Also, Lissa and I really want you to guest host. So if you have a topic that falls within the themes that I just discussed, please reach out to us or fill in that form. We would love to feature our members and partners and friends on these Zoom chats. So yeah, thank you all for listening, and please let me know if you have any questions. And back to you, Lissa.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have one question: how to access DC TV, and what time will they be rolling out the videos?
Question to Mary about accessing DC TV and the time they'll be rolling out videos. We can also follow up and get that info. Mary, do you happen to know?
I don't have it handy. I want to say that it starts at 9:30 tomorrow morning.
Okay, so we can do our students. It's for students too, right? It's mainly for students, right?
Correct. It follows the DCPS curriculum.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
That's fair. It's very exciting. And we'll actually, one of the things that we'll look to do is put on our landing page for our COVID-19 resources a section that has that calendar, that listing for DCTV. We'll just park that information there as well. And then also I know Kent mentioned the mayor's conversation town hall this evening on education. We all need to chime in today, 5 o'clock. We will get that link out, circulate to everyone. Anyone else? Sounds like someone might have a question. I hear someone. Does anyone else want to share? No? Okay. Tom, I think you need to share your background. What's going on there? It looks like a steampunk kind of DC Collaborative logo thing.
Yeah, that's my teaching machine that I'm building here. And I've been making short documentary films, you know. And I was real pleased to hear about the WPA link because I need to purchase some footage too to complete my documentaries on women in science. So I'll follow that link you gave and they can maybe help me with that. And you'll be seeing more from the time machine behind me here as I turn on the lasers and light those. You just have to balance the lighting a little better.
Yeah, so this is called a teaching machine. You'll have to do a demo on one of our future Zoom chats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be great for us to do, you know, as you guys all remember in the good old days, we every August will have Arts and Humanities for every student, teacher orientation that is so well attended, and members fair, where our members get to showcase all of the awesome learning programs and resources that we provide to public school educators. We're going to need to think about what that looks like virtually, don't we? So there might be some fun, interesting ways we can create some learning showcases as well for teachers. Right now, we know their schedules, just like all of us, we're so overwhelmed and they're over subscribed and overbooked. Plus they have to take care of their own family and personal needs. Self-care, again, so important. But we're thinking a lot about what does an orientation or members fair look like. Right now, it's the database. But there can be some really cool ways that maybe utilizing either the Zoom chat tool or another platform, we can do something very similar that we can open up. And maybe, Mary, we can talk to your team too. There could be a really fun kind of parent, caretaker, family day where we could have little showcases from member providers that would directly link back to the offerings and curricular connections. But we have a lot of work to do, but these are the things we're thinking about and how we can continue to serve the community. But thanks for sharing, Tom. We were very curious about the machine behind you. I knew it was something steampunky. I knew it had something to do with your learning. So that was fabulous. Anyone else have any other things they'd like to share? No? Well, thank you again to our special guests for our Monday conversations, David Markey from the Commission and Mary Lambert from DCPS Arts. And thank you to everyone that was on today. I think this was a really helpful conversation for us. It makes us feel really good to stay connected to you all and to do our best to be as supportive as we can during this time. And also, you know, making sure we have this forum and having this forum every weekday is so important. And now we are building such rich, robust conversations and archive of these conversations. We'll make sure that we have a link to them right on the front landing page. We have some buttons, and I'll talk to the team about making sure we do a button that's just about the Zoom chats, because these have become so incredibly helpful, and we can link back to them, reference back to them. Like I said, we're starting to look at case studies now with our friend from Zatar and Project Create kicking off our first one. But thank you all for everything that you're doing. Please tune in tonight, 5 o'clock. We need our advocacy voices on. We need to let the mayor know how important our work is for students. So let's all be there together and make sure that she knows that. Well, thank you all again. Everyone be safe and be well, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Lissa.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.